Welcome to HCOM. I'm your host, Julia Johnson. Today we are going to speak to Madame Mao, who is a significant woman in China. She was one of Mao's first lady, who at the time was the chairman of China. Madame Mao was the leader of the Gang of Four and villain named Jiang Qing, aka Madame Mao. And here, with our historian Patricia Jones, we will be going in depth with Madame Mao and her perspective on her life.
Thanks, Julia. She came from a poor family. She did not have much at all. Later on, she found herself leaning towards the acting career. Soon after, she ended up marrying Mao in 1938 and served as the First Lady of the People's Republic of China. Later on, she ended up working for the Chinese government and then was a part of a communist pro-movement, which was the Gang of Four. They committed treasonous crimes and they got convicted to prison, and Madame Mao took her own life. In the book, Becoming Madame Mao, it was said in her childhood was brutal and was tough due to the fact that her mother and sister got raped in Japan.
How did this event impact you then and to this day?
Yes, it did. It was traumatizing. It clearly made me despise the Japanese because of what they had done to my family. I couldn't believe such a human could have done something so disgusting. People would always depict women in China as weak and fragile. This would always lead to a sudden event that would get women sexually harassed. It was not okay when everyone thought it was okay. In many ways, it had definitely changed me and developed a different type of character in me. It made me look at the world in such a different way, which made me romanticize the idea of revenge.
An Chi Min, author of Becoming Madame Mao, depicted her as a human being in positive light who came from a broken home.
How do you feel about this depiction?
I feel joyful that Min understands that everyone is a human no matter what is done, and she has made those aware of what I've been through to get where I was. I was never able to speak about my opinion or make suggestions. I'm very happy towards this depiction due to the fact everyone would see me as an evil human being. This book helps my perspective to shine through.
In China, the society was suffering because of the Gang of Four, since the gang was very vicious and dangerous people. Even murder was committed by the Gang of Four. The Gang of Four was proven to be a huge role in communism in China.
As the leader of the gang, do you believe you were a vicious and dangerous person? Were you sane at the time? Was murder something you'd do anytime?
I do admit to the fact that I was one of the reasons for some of the murders that happened at that time, but obviously I wasn't in my current mind. I feel as if I was blinded by all the power I received and couldn't focus on what was right in front of me. I wouldn't call myself vicious for something that I wasn't intending to do. I do believe I was dangerous, but it wasn't to an extent where I'd go crazy.
Madame Mao is someone who strives for communism based on her past.
Why are you fascinated by the ideology?
I am fascinated by communism because it promotes an equal life for all. It gives me more opportunity to be less treated as an object, and I feel communism would stop the corruption in the world. I really wanted this idea to be promoted all over China, but not everyone in China was willing to correspond with it. No one understood my type of suffering from this. I risked a lot to continue the spread of communism, and I still think that...
About this, do you really think you almost ruined modern China?
I wouldn't have any intentions to make China ruin. I was only following Mao's wishes. He didn't give me enough power to do anything until the near of the point of his death. That's when I decided to follow in his wishes. It seemed to lead on to China coming to a downfall, but that isn't what I intended to do. I wasn't the only one to start the communism or anything to do with it. Mao was the one to do it all. I was the loyal one to follow his decisions until he got rid of my power.
Is that why you started the Gang of Four? For power?
Yes, that's what led to communism. Even though he had died, I wanted to run the country and continue to make it better. The Cultural Revolution was one of the ways on how China was going to become a better nation. I'm not expecting you to understand, but my thoughts would have definitely made China a better country if the nation would have listened to me.
Many people witnessed your trial. It was shown to be an unfair type of treatment and judgment.
Do you truly believe the court's judgment or treatment was unfair?
Honestly, I wasn't even able to say my side of all the witness statements. It was a very frustrating day that made me panic. I wasn't able to speak for myself. I was just there listening to everything that was thrown at me without any proper evidence. At a point, I was taken out of court for the most absurd thing. There was a witness who I was sure that was making false claims, and all I did was defend myself. In the end, I was escorted out.
And that's all we have time for today. Thank you, Madam Mao and Patricia, for coming in and giving us your perspective.
Thank you for listening to my side of the story.
Thank you for listening to my depictions.